Good day, future English teachers. Welcome back to our rationalization session, this time for set 4. I am Professor Paul Hiranio, a professor of English at the University of San Agustin, and I am your English major coach. Let's start. Question number 1. Stuttering, lisping, and stammering can be classified as A. Auditory difficulties, B. Visual difficulties, C. Motor difficulties, D. Speech difficulties. Again, stuttering, lisping, and stammering can be classified as A. Auditory difficulties, B. Visual difficulties, C. Motor difficulties, D. Speech difficulties. Okay, the correct answer is letter D, speech difficulties. So stuttering, lisping, and stammering can be classified as speech difficulties. When you say auditory difficulties, these difficulties have something to do with the sense of hearing, right? Visual, the sense of sight. Motor, difficulties have something to do with the bones and the muscles of your body. So the correct answer is speech difficulties. So stuttering, lisping, and stammering are common speech disorders. So stuttering or stammering is a problem that interferes with fluent, that is flowing and easy speech. A person who stutters may repeat the first part of a word, as in water, or hold a single sound for a long time, as in hey. So that is stuttering or stammering. Some people who stutter have trouble getting sounds out altogether. Lisping. In my case, I have a lisping problem. So I know this speech difficulty just like the back of my hand. Lisping is a speech disorder characterized by the inability to correctly pronounce the sounds of S or Z. Look at how I pronounce S or Z, right? It's problematic. Known as the sibilant consonants. Usually the TH sounds are substituted for the sibilants. So S. Instead of the S sound, it's TH, right? So that's lisping. Motor difficulties have something to do with motor skills. So what are motor skills? Motor skills are movements and actions of the bone structures. Examples of motor difficulties are tremors, jerks, spasms. Okay, let's go to question number 2. Which statement corresponds most closely to Levi-Strauss' approach to mythology, to myth? A. Myths have a historical dimension. B. Myths enshrine ritual practices. C. Myths strive to resolve binary opposites. The myth arises from the collective unconscious. Correction for letter C. Myths strive. Strive there has no S. It's a typographical error. Again, which statement corresponds most closely to Levi-Strauss's approach to mythology? A. Myths have a historical dimension. B. Myths enshrine ritual practices. C. Myths strive to resolve binary opposites. D. Myth arises from the collective unconscious. So the correct answer is C. Myths strive, without S, to resolve binary opposites. Actually, you pronounce dimension in two ways. It's either dimension or dimension, but I prefer dimension. In British English, it's usually dimension. Direction, I prefer direction. The director, I prefer director. Direct, I prefer direct, right? Okay? Myths strive to resolve binary opposites. So we have to define the term binary opposites. But first, so what are myths? Myths are traditional stories of gods, kings, and heroes. No? We have the mythology of the ancient Greece and Rome. We have Norse mythology, the mythology of the ancient people in Scandinavia, no? Countries such as Finland, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, no? Norse mythology, the mythology of the northern people. We also have Egyptian mythology. We have Chinese mythology. We have Indian mythology. And in our very own, we also have Filipino mythology, no? Bathala. In our island, here in Panay, we also have Panayanon mythology. So traditional stories of gods, kings, and heroes. Myths show the relations between gods and people. Mythology was a form of early science to Greeks because it helped explain the unexplainable. Who's this guy named Claude Lévi-Strauss? Was a French anthropologist. When you say anthropology, it is the study of human culture. Lévi-Strauss approach to narrative. Claude Lévi-Strauss studied hundreds of myths and legends all around the world. From that, he found out that we as humans make sense of the world, people, and events by seeing and using binary opposites. So this is a very important concept, binary opposites. He found out that narratives are arranged around the conflict of binary opposites. You know, it is a conflict, no? Opposites. So binary opposites, pair of related terms or concepts that are opposite in meaning. Binary opposition is the system of language and or thought by which two theoretical opposites are strictly defined and set off against one another. Examples, good and evil, right? Rich and poor, clever and dumb. So we call these structures binary opposites. In mythology, usually is centered around binary opposites. No? The quest, the struggle between, no, good and evil, rich and poor, clever and dumb. On the basis of any myth, there is an opposition. Any myth starts with a binary opposition. For example, life and death, heaven and earth, day and night, right and left, up and down, sacred and miserable, raw and ripe, black and white. So these are the usual themes, no? Topics in mythology, life and death, heaven and earth. Now let's go to question number 3. What 19th century entertainment is made up of chord skills and musical acts which influenced modern day television shows? A. Zarzuela. B. Comedia. C. Opera. D. Vaudeville. The correct answer is letter D. Vaudeville. In the United States, the term vaudeville connotes a light entertainment popular from the mid-1890s until the early 1930s that consisted of 10 to 15 individual unrelated acts featuring magicians, acrobats, comedians, trained animals, jugglers, singers, and dancers. Nowadays, you can see these things in a theme park, such as Disneyland or Universal Studios, right? Television has been greatly influenced by vaudeville, specifically by the genres of sketch comedy, late night variety, and reality talent shows. Now, zarzuela, form of Spanish or Spanish-derived musical theater in which the dramatic action is carried through an alternating combination of song and speech. And we had this before, during the Spanish regime in the Philippines, or even during the early American period, no? Zarzuela. It's like Broadway in the United States. Comedia, a Spanish regular verse drama or comedy. Opera is a form of theater in which music has a leading role in the parts are taken by singers, but is distinct from musical theater. Sometimes people pronounce it theater. Number 4, the allegory of the cave argues what? A, there is value in ignorance. B, our perceptions may not be accurate. C, perceptions are sources of absolute knowledge. And D, we are born with infinite knowledge. So the correct answer is the allegory of the cave argues that our perceptions may not be accurate. What we see might be different from what really the thing is. What really the thing is, right? Our perceptions may not be accurate. That is what the allegory of the cave wants to present. Allegory is a story in which people, things, and happenings have a hidden or symbolic meaning. Allegories are used for teaching or explaining ideas, moral principles, etc. So the allegory of the cave is a theory put forward by Plato, a famous Greek philosopher, right, concerning human perception, how we perceive things. Plato claimed that knowledge gained through the senses, the five senses, the sense of sight, the sense of smell, touch, taste, sense of hearing, right? That knowledge gained through the senses is no more than opinion, and that in order to have real knowledge, we must gain it through philosophical reasoning. In conclusion, the allegory presents one of Plato's major philosophical assumptions. His belief that the world revealed by our senses, what we see, what we hear, what we touch, what we feel, or what we taste, is not the real world, but only a poor copy of it. And that the real world can only be apprehended intellectually. Reasoning should come in. Now, question number 5. The greatest lyric poet of ancient Greece, the master of Ephenecia, a choral order celebrating victories achieved in the various official tournaments throughout Greece. So the greatest lyric poet of ancient Greece, A, Sappho, B, Anacreon, C, Pindar, D, Juvenal. The correct answer is Pindar. Pindar was the greatest lyric poet of ancient Greece. Born to an aristocratic family near Thebes in or about 522 BCE, Pindar is considered by some scholars to be the greatest of the classical Greek poets. Sappho was a poetess, right? From the island of Lesbos. That's why we have the term lesbian, because we have this island in the Aegean Sea named Lesbos, where Sappho lived. Sappho of Lesbos was a lyric poet whose work was so popular in ancient Greece and beyond that she was honored in statuary and praised by figures such as Solon and Plato. Anacreon was a Greek lyric poet notable for his songs, hymns, and personable poems celebrating the lighter side of life. And Juvenal was a Roman poet of the Silver Age of Latin literature, the last and most powerful of all the Roman satirical poets. So Juvenal is not the correct answer here because it says here that he was a Roman poet. And the question says, the greatest lyric poet of ancient Greece. Okay? What is Ephenesia? Lyric ode honoring a victor in one of the great Hellenic games. Was performed usually by a chorus or on occasion by a solo singer as part of the celebration on the victor's triumphal return to his city. The genre reached its zenith in the odes of Pindar in the 5th century BC. Okay, number 6. I was born blank July 1st. A. At July 1st. B. On July 1st. C. In July 1st. D. With July 1st. So the correct answer is I was born on July 1st. On is used to refer to a particular day, right? It is a preposition used to talk about a particular day. So, for example, they'll be here on Tuesday. I was born on July 1st. We'll see you on Christmas Eve. So, specific date, right? On, I was born on April 11, 1982. The rule says do not use on before this, last, or next, and a day of the week. You say term starts this Monday. You don't say term starts on this Monday. It was my birthday last Friday. We do not say it was my birthday on last Friday. Again, I was born on July 1st. Complete date, right? Specific date on July 1st. Number 7, this novel by Gustave Flaubert, some people pronounce it Flaubert, was met with disapproval. The novel was the first ever realistic portrayal of the French provincial life and the people concerned, doctor, priest, chemist, etc. A. Madame Bovary. B. Jane Eyre. C. The Scarlet Letter. D. A Simple Heart. Okay, the correct answer is letter A Simple Heart. Again, this novel by Gustave Flaubert was met with disapproval. The novel was the first ever realistic portrayal of the French provincial life and the people concerned, doctor, priest, chemist, etc. The correct answer is A Simple Heart. Who was Gustave Flaubert? Born December 12, 1821, died May 8, 1880, was an influential French writer who is counted among the greatest novelists in Western literature. He is known especially for his first published novel, Madame Bovary. That is Gustave Flaubert or Flaubert. Next. A Simple Heart is a heart-rending, sincere story of a maid named Felicity Barré and her kind-hearted and forthright life, even when faced with abuse, poverty, and loss. In the story, Felicity met a series of losses in her life. Okay? A Simple Heart. The Scarlet Letter, letter C, is a novel by Nathaniel Hawthorne, written about 1850, set in Boston, Massachusetts, about 1690. Jane Eyre, 1840, was written by Charlotte Bronte. Question number 8, obviously, objectives occasionally blank be modified or changed. A, have to be modified or changed. B, must be modified or changed. C, should not be modified or changed. D, ought to be modified or changed. Correction C, option C is should be modified or changed. Please remove not. Again, obviously, objectives occasionally A have to be modified or changed. B must be modified or changed. C should be modified or changed. D ought to be modified or changed. This involves the correct use of modal verbs. Have to, must, should, ought to are modal verbs. Have to is used for external obligation. Um, have to people are confused as far as the use of have to and must is concerned. Have to is used for external obligation. The obligation comes from outside. So I have to take this medicine twice a day. The obligation of taking medicine is an outside obligation, right? The doctor told me to. Must is used for internal obligation. It's inside, within oneself. I must study harder. So this comes from my own motivation. The obligation is eternal. Again, for external obligation, we use have to. For internal obligation, we use must. So in this case, objectives occasionally must be modified or changed. Probably this is according to the rules, right? According to what your school has set, right? So the obligation of modifying objectives is external. So the correct answer is have to. Must expresses the speaker's feelings, whereas have to expresses above all an impersonal idea. In this case, in the question, there is no personal feeling, right? It's impersonal because probably it's work related or it is um, a requirement, right, set by the school or by the policymakers. So obviously, objectives have to be modified or changed. You must come. You are obliged to come. I require that you come. You have to come means you are obliged to come. There's a rule requiring you to come. Next, number 9, the International Reading Association's 2002 position paper entitled Integrating Literacy and Technology in the Curriculum advocates teachers A, giving students safe opportunities to use and explore technology in the classroom, B, using internet sites to explore literacy-related ideas and strategies developed by fellow teachers, C, building literacy-related technology skills through professional development opportunities, D, ensuring students become critical consumers of information on the internet by thoughtfully integrating technology into the literacy curriculum. E, all of these, D, none of these. So the correct answer is all of these. So all these things mentioned were advocated by the International Reading Association's position paper entitled Integrating Literacy and Technology in the Curriculum. Let's talk a little bit about the International Reading Association, or IRA. It is a nonprofit professional organization that seeks to promote high levels of literacy by improving the quality of reading instruction. The association works to achieve this mission by studying the reading process and teaching techniques, serving as a clearinghouse for the support and dissemination of reading research through conferences and publications, and actively encouraging a lifetime reading habit. The association is concerned with reading at all levels, from the school readiness stage through college and adult learning. And question number 10, blank takes place when two students read a text together. This is a reading strategy. Two students reading a text together. A, shared reading. B, developmental reading. C, guided reading. D, body reading. The correct answer is body reading. Letter D, body reading. Now, there are many kinds of reading. We have shared reading, guided reading, independent reading, body reading, reading aloud to students. Body reading is a fun way to help people learn to read. A student who knows how to read well reads with a student who can't read as well. Strategies: read aloud, echo reading, choral reading, and taking turns in reading. Because uh, body reading is usually composed of two people, two readers. What does body reading mean? Body reading means reading the same book with your buddy or your friend at the same time together. The buddy can be anyone, a new friend you made or a friend you had all your life. You just need to have the same love of reading books. Okay, number 11. Charles Lamb was one of the great essayists who worked with his brother John and created Persona to reflect his own thoughts on variety of subjects. The name of the persona is A. Elijah, B. Mary Ann Cross, C. Elia, D. Mary Ann Evans. The correct answer is letter C, Elia. Again, Charles Lamb was one of the great essayists who worked with his brother John and created persona to reflect his own thoughts on variety of subjects. The name of the persona is Elia. Who was Charles Lamb? He was an English essayist, poet, fiction writer, and critic from the Romantic period. His life: he was a writer of the essay, he was a poet. He wrote under the pseudonym Elia. He was friends with literary greats such as Coleridge, Shelley, and Byron. That is Charles Lamb. So Elia was his pseudonym or pen name. Now, question number 12. Each step in Gagne's level of learning highlights a form of communication that aids the learning process, B, a particular learning theory, C, a specific educational philosophy, D, a strategy used in assessing learners. Again, each step in Gagne's levels of learning highlights, letter A form of communication that aids the learning process. Robert Gagne was an educational psychologist who pioneered the science of instruction in the 1940s, before the Second World War. His book, The Conditions of Learning, first published in 1965, identified the mental conditions that are necessary for effective learning. So his book was entitled The Conditions of Learning, published in 1965. Robert Gagne. Each step in Gagne's process provides a communication strategy. It says here in the question, each step in Gagne's levels of learning highlights a form of communication that aids the learning process. So each step in Gagne's process provides a communication strategy that is intended to further deepen the human learning process. As each step is completed, learners are meant to become interested, engaged, and invested in the learning topic. Question number 13. What intonation is used with WH questions? Who, what, where, when, how? A, rising intonation. B, falling intonation. C, steady intonation. D, no intonation at all. So the correct answer is letter B, falling intonation. For WH questions, we use the falling intonation. Falling intonations, questions that begin with who, what, when, where, why, which, and how. The WH questions, often referred to as WH questions, right? Usually end in falling intonation, falling intonation. So we say, what time is it? We don't say, what time is it? Who is she? We don't say, who is she? When is he coming? So falling intonation. In WH questions, your voice goes up and down at the end. What are they wearing? Why are they standing? We don't say, why are they standing? What are they wearing? We don't say that. So your voice goes up and then down at the end. What is intonation? Intonation can be described as the movements or variations in pitch to which we attach familiar labels describing levels like high and low and tones like falling and rising, etc. That's according to Ranalli 2002. So what intonation is used with WH questions? Falling intonation. Number 14, which one of the following is an example of a fine motor skill? A, climbing. B, hopping. C, running. D, writing. Fine motor skill is writing. Fine motor skills involve the small muscles of the body. In this case, the hands that are used for writing, grasping small objects, and fastening clothing. When we refer to fine motor skills in the context of handwriting, we are typically talking about the small muscles in the hands and fingers used for writing. So which of the following is an example of a fine motor skill? Writing. Number 15, what is the smallest unit of sound of any language that causes a difference in meaning? A, allophone. B, allomorph. C, morpheme. D, phoneme. Sound is phoneme. Phonemes, a phoneme is the smallest unit of sound in a word. Knowing about phonemes is important for spelling. A phoneme may be made up of one or more letters which make one sound. For example, a morpheme or morphemes are the minimal units of meaning. A single word may be composed of one or more morphemes, and a morpheme may be represented by a single sound also. So phonemes and morphemes. Okay, number 16, an approach to teaching grammar where rules are given only after students have done intensive pattern practice in various contexts. In other words, practice first before the rule. A, inductive approach. B, deductive approach. C, formal approach. D, functional approach. The correct answer is practice or examples, then rule. It's inductive approach. An approach to teaching grammar where rules are given only after students have done intensive pattern practice in various contexts. The correct answer is inductive approach. New grammar items can be taught through two basic ways. One is deductively or deductive approach, and second is inductively or inductive approach. What's the difference? In a deductive approach, you deduce. The teacher presents the grammar rule and then gives students exercises in which they apply the rule. So rule, then exercises. But the question says rules are given only after the exercises, the practice. So in an inductive approach, the teacher presents samples of language and then the students have to come to an intuitive understanding of the rule. So the correct answer is inductive approach. Exercises or examples, then rule. Inductive approach. Next. Number 17, in the audiolingual method, why are mistakes in pronunciation and grammar immediately corrected? In the in audiolingualism, in the audiolingual approach, we don't like errors. We don't like linguistic errors. Errors are avoided. That's important in audiolingualism, in the audiolingual approach. In the audiolingual method, why are mistakes in pronunciation and grammar immediately corrected? A, so that the behavior does not become habits. B, so that English is learned right away. C, to make learners practice more. And D, to develop accuracy and fluency. The correct answer is letter A, so that the behavior does not become habits. To avoid fossilization of errors. In the audiolingual method, how does the teacher respond to student errors? Student errors are to be avoided, if at all possible, through the teacher's awareness of where the students will have difficulty and restriction of what they are taught to say. Error correction. In the audiolingual method, in audiolingualism, errors are corrected by the teacher since errors may cause bad habit formation. If errors are not corrected, then they become habits. So letter A. Number 18, what sort of data describes meaning and experience? A, ideographic data. B, quantitative data. C, monothetic data. D, qualitative data. What sort of data describes meaning and experience? It's qualitative data. Qualitative data describes qualities or characteristics. It is collected using questionnaires, interviews, or observation, and frequently appears in narrative form. And most of the researches in languages require qualitative data gathering, qualitative research for that matter. Question number 19. Who defined language as a purely human and non-instinctive method of communicating ideas, emotions, and desires by means of voluntarily produced symbols? A, Noam Chomsky. B, Ferdinand de Saussure. C, Edward Sapir. D, Stephen Krashen. Correct answer is Edward Sapir. Who defined language as a purely human and non-instinctive method of communicating ideas, emotions, and desires by means of voluntarily produced symbols? Edward Sapir was an American anthropologist, linguist, who is widely considered to be one of the most important figures in the development of the discipline of linguistics in the United States. He was interested in the relationship between language and culture, cultural, linguistic relativity, the concept of linguistic relativity. Edward Sapir. Number 20, it is a group of interrelated sentences that talk about one main idea. A, phrase. B, paragraph. C, essay. D, stanza. The correct answer is paragraph. A paragraph is a group of sentences. It has a clear main idea and contains supporting information. It is part of a longer composition. It is a miniature essay. Finding the main idea, sequencing events, finding details, and creative and critical reading are examples of A, word recognition skills, B, utilization skills, C, study skills, D, comprehension skills. The correct answer is comprehension skills or understanding skills. Generally, we call these skills reading skills. Okay, comprehension skills. Reading comprehension skills for English language learners. Examples of comprehension skills that can be taught and applied to all reading situations include summarizing, sequencing, inferencing, comparing and contrasting, drawing conclusions, self-questioning, problem solving, relating background knowledge or prior knowledge, distinguishing between fact and opinion, and finding the main idea, important facts, and supporting details. So, main idea, finding the main idea, sequencing events, finding details, or note taking, and creative and critical reading are examples of comprehension skills. Okay, number 22, he should discover a gift certificate for dinner at Cafe Sofia under his seat at the table. The underlined part is for dinner at Cafe Sofia. A, an infinitive phrase. B, an appositive phrase. C, a gerund phrase. D, a prepositional phrase. Or E, a participial phrase. The correct answer is letter D, a prepositional phrase. Why? Because it is introduced by a preposition for dinner at Cafe Sofia. So for is a preposition. A phrase that is introduced by a preposition is a prepositional phrase. A prepositional phrase is a group of words consisting of a preposition, its object, and any words that modify the object. At a minimum, a prepositional phrase consists of one preposition. So the preposition here is for, and the object it governs. So we have here an example sentence. Let's analyze. After several minutes, we located the key for the door. So your prepositional phrase is after several minutes because it is introduced by a preposition, and that is after. Your OP or your object of the preposition is minutes. Another preposition in this sentence is for the door. It is introduced by a preposition for, and your object of the preposition is door. In the example, in the question, he should discover a gift certificate for dinner at Cafe Sofia under his seat at the table. Your prepositional phrase is for dinner at Cafe Sofia. This is the underlined phrase. It's your prepositional phrase. So the preposition is for, and your OP or your object of the preposition is dinner. So we have a lot of prepositional phrases, and these are some of the examples. In the beginning, before the fall. Before is your preposition and fall becomes your OP. After the brutal fight, at school, down the aisle, across the street, so on and so forth. So we have the structure is prepositional phrase because it is introduced by a preposition. Number 23, which learning theory views children as having the ability to relate new information to prior knowledge? A, social linguistic learning theory. B, constructivism. C, reader response. D, interactive learning theory. Correct answer is constructivism. Which learning theory views children as having the ability to relate new information to prior knowledge? So new information and prior knowledge. So we have constructivism. What is constructivism? It is a learning theory that states that learning is active and constructive. Learner builds on previous knowledge or schema. People are actively making associations in order to be objective in learning. And new learning is compared to prior knowledge. So we have our important proponents of constructivism. We have Jean Piaget, Lev Vygotsky, Dewey, Bruner, Jerome Bruner. So which learning theory views children as having the ability to relate new information to prior knowledge? It's constructivism. What is prior knowledge? use what I already know to help me understand something new. A coastal body of water connected to the ocean and supplied with fresh water from a river is A. River, B. Atoll, C. Spit, D. Estuary. Correct answer is letter D. Estuary. An estuary is an area where a freshwater river or stream meets the ocean. It is considered to be the mouth of the river. For example, Iloilo River here in my city is an estuary, or it is the mouth of the sea, right? It is the mouth of the sea. When fresh water and seawater combine, the water becomes brackish or slightly salty. So we have here an image of an estuary. And number 25, the Chinese nationalist diplomat and scholar who in 1922 helped establish the vernacular Chinese or Baihua as China's official written language. A. Hu Chuyi, B. Hu Shi, C. Huang Shen, D. Liang Chenyu. The correct answer is B. Hu Shi. Hu Shi is widely regarded as one of the most important Chinese intellectuals of the 20th century. As such, he is known as the father of the Chinese Renaissance. Hu Shi, so this is the image of Hu Shi. Question number 26, it is a short nonfiction work in which an author presents his or her point of view on a particular topic. Okay? Probably his arguments, his opinions on a certain topic. A. Critique, B. Biography, C. Essay, D. Précis. The correct answer is letter C. Essay. It is a short nonfiction work in which an author presents his or her point of view on a particular topic. Essay. An essay is a piece of writing designed to affect its readers in a manner determined by its author. A good essay will tend to sway the reader toward the writer's position on his or her subject. In other words, this particular writing tries to influence the reader to believe what the author says, what the author writes, to believe the arguments of the author. Generally, an essay is short, and the writer must keep the reader in mind as he or she writes. Number 26, yes, Michel de Montaigne was one of the most influential figures of the Renaissance, single-handedly responsible for popularizing the essay as a literary form. So who popularized the essay as a literary form? Michel de Montaigne, a popular French writer. Number 27, which activity calls for students to do a quick write or quick draw? Then they crumple, throw, and read these pieces of paper. A. Snowball toss. B. Hot seat. C. Quaker reading. D. Carousel. The correct answer is letter A. Snowball toss. You crumple, the students crumple, throw, and read pieces of paper. Sometimes these pieces of paper contain facts, okay? And students read what is written there, right? So we have here snowball fight activity. Question number 28, 20th century artists look to psychoanalytic writings to capture the inner self, what is inside the hearts and the minds of the author. These artists sought to use these ideas as an outlet for A, an assault on the senses, B, chaotic painting, C, beauty, D, fantasy, E, unconscious forces. The correct answer is unconscious forces. Psychoanalysis, from the works of the ideas of Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud. Psychoanalysis has something to do with the unconscious forces inside the person. Psychoanalytic writing, the author uses his works to reveal his inner self. Sometimes you wonder, why is it that most of the works of Edgar Allan Poe are dark? You know, most of his works are dim. The raven is a is a black bird. Um, the Cask of Amontillado, the Mask of the Red Death. So psychoanalysis will answer. It reveals what is inside the mind of the author of Edgar Allan Poe when he wrote these masterpieces. The author's purpose in writing is to gratify secretly some forbidden wish, in particular, an infantile wish or desire that has been repressed into the unconscious mind. Next, number 29. A type of character in a story who is capable of being unpredictable and grows and develops throughout the novel. A, flat character. B, round character. C, minor character. D, major character. The correct answer is round character. A round character is a type of character in a story who is capable of being unpredictable and grows and develops throughout the novel. So we have the round characters and we have the flat characters. Flat characters are two-dimensional in that they are relatively uncomplicated and do not change throughout the course of a work. For example, when the story starts, character A is kind, and he remains kind until the end. It means character A is a flat character because there is no change. By contrast, round characters are complex and undergo development, sometimes sufficiently to surprise the reader. If character B, during the start of the story, is um, is a wicked person, and towards the end he becomes kind, then character B is a round character. And number 30, which of the following words has a different vowel sound? A, pay. B, fair. C, make. D, all of these. E, none of these. Again, pay, fair, make. Which has a different vowel sound? The correct answer is fair. We have the A sound, pay and make, but fair contains a diphthong. Fair, ear, air. Okay? It contains a diphthong. While choices A and C, pay and make, have the A sound. So contains the diphthong ear, right? Fair, ear. Ear or ear. Beer, here. Question number 31. The English essayist, poet, and dramatist who was the leading contributor to the guiding spirit of the periodicals, The Tatler and Spectator. A. Jonathan Swift. B. Joseph Addison. C. Ralph Waldo Emerson. D. John Dryden. Again, the English essayist, poet, and dramatist who was the leading contributor to the guiding spirit of the periodicals, The Tatler and Spectator. A. Jonathan Swift. B. Joseph Addison. C. Ralph Waldo Emerson. D. John Dryden. The correct answer is Joseph Addison. Joseph Addison was an English essayist and satirist. Addison occupies the large space in the history of literature. He was known for his modern essays from the Tatler and the Spectator. 18th century was the beginning of writing of new style of prose. So the Tatler and the Spectator, Joseph Addison. Number 32. To blank is to make ashamed, to embarrass, A, to abdicate, B, to abate, C, to abhor, D, to abash. The correct answer is to abash is to make ashamed, to embarrass. To abash is to embarrass someone or make him or her feel uncomfortable. So we have the sentence Mary felt abashed by her inability to remember the lines Old MacDonald had a farm. To abash, the synonyms are to humiliate, to embarrass, to mortify. Next, number 33. Which of the following can a teacher use to teach the idea that there is a range of meaning between opposite words? A, climb, B, matching, C, context clues, D, chamber theater. The correct answer is Klein or word Klein. Klein is a scale of language. Scale, that's why we have this phrase in the question, range of meaning, right? Scale of language items that goes from one extreme to another. For example, from positive to negative, or from weak to strong. In the classroom, clients can be a useful tool for learners to record information, and they can help teachers as a concept check. However, a learner's ability to use a client does not mean that they can use the target language in context. I think Klein or Kleining is a good tool in developing your students' vocabulary. So we have here an example of a Klein, right? I never, from never to always. So I never go to the dentist. I rarely go to the dentist. I hardly ever go to the dentist. I sometimes go to the dentist. I often go to the dentist, and I always go to the dentist. The range of meaning between opposite words from never to always. It is a good vocabulary practice, good vocabulary exercise. Well, we also have here words from the smallest to the biggest. Microscopic, tiny, then small, big, huge, and gigantic. Which of the following can a teacher use to teach the idea that there is a range of meaning from very small to very big, no? From microscopic to gigantic? Range of meaning between opposite words, it's climb or climbing. Next, number 34. Who attempted to explain myths as charters of social costumes? A, Max Muller, B, Jane Harrison, C, J.G. Fraser, D, Bronislaw Malinowski. The correct answer is Malinowski. He attempted to explain myths as charters of social costumes. Bronislaw Malinowski was from Poland, one of the most important anthropologists of the 20th century, who is widely recognized as a founder of social anthropology. Malinowski rejected the idea that myth's primary purpose is to explain, rather than to help justify and maintain the social system. Myths do not, in fact, refer to any culture outside of their own. He called such justificatory myths charters. In other words, they provided validation for the social institutions they described. That's the concept of myths proposed by Malinowski. Malinowski emphasized the psychological conditions that lead man to create myths. Why did man create myths, right? He felt that all people recognize that a frontier exists between what man can and cannot explain logically. Malinowski believed that man had to create such myths to relieve the tension brought on by his not knowing why something happens. Because man cannot fully explain why a certain thing takes place, then man creates or created myths. That is according to the theory of Bronislaw Malinowski. 35. In pronouncing the word, this one, on which syllable is the primary stress placed? Second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. Because the word has one, two, three, four, six syllables. So it's characterization, characterization. So it is accented on the fifth syllable. So characterization, characterization. Okay, number 36. Which empire introduced the Eastern Orthodox Church and the Cyrillic alphabet to Russia? A, the Mongol Empire, of course, from Mongolia. So we have Genghis Khan, the Byzantine Empire, the British Empire, and the Gupta Empire. The Gupta Empire was from India. So the correct answer is the Byzantine Empire. The Russian alphabet is based on the Cyrillic alphabet. The word Cyrillic came from Saint Cyril. There are 33 letters in the Russian alphabet, 11 vowels, 20 consonants, and 2 pronunciation signs. And the Cyrillic alphabet is said to be the third official alphabet of the European Union, of the EU. The early Cyrillic alphabet is a writing system that was developed during the late 9th century on the basis of the Greek alphabet for the Slavic peoples living near the Byzantine Empire in Southeast and Central Europe. It was used by Slavic peoples in Southeast, Central, and Eastern Europe. So we have the Cyrillic alphabet. So which empire introduced the Eastern Orthodox Church and the Cyrillic alphabet to Russia? Is the Byzantine Empire. So this is an example of this is how it looks like, the Cyrillic alphabet. Number 37, which book of the Bible teaches that there will never be an explanation of human suffering, especially undeserved suffering that human intelligence can comprehend? A, the book of Exodus. B, the book of Job. C, the book of Genesis. And D, the book of Revelation. Correct answer is the book of Job. Job explores the difficult question of God's relationship to human suffering and invites us to trust God's wisdom and character. Number 38, she wants to study in blank European university. A, in a European university. B, in an European university. C, either A or B. D, neither A nor B. So which article should be used here? Is it which indefinite article? Because A and an are indefinite articles. She wants to study in a European university or in an European university. The correct answer is a European university. Why? European here, the word European, although starts with letter E, which is a vowel, but the E here is pronounced using the Y sound. European, Y sound. And it is a consonant sound. And we know that if the word has a consonant sound starts with a consonant sound, it is preceded by a, not an, by an indefinite article, by the indefinite article a, right? Y sound is a consonant sound, and we use a before a consonant sound. So we say a European. Number 39, which of the following is not an objective type of teacher-made tests? A, matching type test. B, multiple choice test. C, completion test. D, essay test. Correct answer is essay test, not an objective type of teacher-made test, because essay test is subjective. So we have objective tests and we have subjective tests. So we have the objective type of tests and we have the subjective type of tests. Objective type of tests include the multiple choice, the true or false, and the matching items, right? There is only one correct response. Objective. Examples of the subjective test include essays and short answer questions. Objective type test, a test consisting of factual questions. For example, what is the capital of the Philippines? Manila. What is the capital of Canada? Ottawa. A test consisting of factual questions requiring extremely short answers that can be quickly and ambiguously scored by anyone with an answer key, thus minimizing subjective judgments by both the person taking the test and the person scoring it. Number 40. The car coughed, groaned, and winked its lights. What figure of speech is at play here? A, simile. B, personification. C, metaphor. D, hyperbole. Correct answer is personification. Personification is giving human qualities to animals or objects. Only humans cough, groan, and wink. So this is clearly an example of personification. Simile is comparing two unrelated things using the words as or like. Metaphor is direct comparison. Hyperbole is exaggeration. Okay, number 41, the concept, Marshall McLuhan originated the concept of A, global village, B, development journalism, C, video conferencing, D, interactive media. The correct answer is global village. The concept of global village is attributed to Marshall McLuhan, a famous Canadian expert on the media industry. So let's get to know Marshall McLuhan. Was born July 21, 1911, died December 31, 1980, was a Canadian professor, theorist, and critic. So his main concepts were the medium is the message and the concept of the global village. Marshall McLuhan, once referred to as the oracle of the electronic age, is perhaps best known for his phrase turned into a book titled The Medium is the Message. He coined the phrase the global village, referring to the apparently irresistible spread of electronic forms of communication. What is the concept of global village? Global village is the concept that people around the world can interact almost as easily as if the world were one large village due to advances in communications and technology. Advances in technology, especially in communications and transportation, have brought people closer together. That is the concept of global village first proposed by Marshall McLuhan. Next, number 42, $5. Blank, a lot of money. A, $5 is a lot of money. B, $5 are a lot of money. C, either. D, neither. So C is either A or B. D, neither A nor B. The correct answer is letter A. $5 is a lot of money. This is a question on subject verb agreement. The rule says amount of money, length of time, unit of measurement, and fraction require a singular verb. So $5 is. 16 hours is a long time to travel. 5,000 pesos is too much for a daily allowance of a student, and 3/4 is enough. Next, number 43, which of the following pertains to the use of verbal and nonverbal mechanisms for the productive communication of information? A, communication strategies. B, silent way approach. C, learning styles. D, strategic competence. Again, which of the following pertains to the use of verbal and nonverbal mechanisms for the productive communication of information? The correct answer is communication strategies. Communication strategies pertain to output, how we productively express meaning, how we deliver messages to others. According to Brown 2000, communication strategies pertain to the employment of verbal or nonverbal mechanisms for the productive communication of information. So the correct answer is letter A, communication strategies. Question number 44. The ability to read and speak well and to express oneself without effort is called A, comprehension, B, fluency, C, acquisition, D, gesticulation. Correct answer is letter B, fluency. It is the ability to read and speak well and to express oneself without effort. It's fluency. When you are fluent, when you are a fluent reader, there is no more problem as far as decoding of words is concerned, right? Fluency is defined as the ability to read with speed, accuracy, and proper expression. So, what is fluency? Oral reading fluency includes three parts: accuracy, reading speed, and prosody. The skill, what is prosody? The skill of reading aloud with proper intonation, phrasing, and expression. You can only have this skill of reading aloud with proper intonation, proper phrasing, and proper expression if you understand what you are reading. So why should we focus on fluency? It says here, fluency is not an end in itself, but a critical gateway to comprehension. Fluent reading frees cognitive resources to process the meaning of what is being read. Next, number 45, the poetry of Ezra Pound is best described as A, philosophical, B, imagist, C, metaphysical, D, romantic. The correct answer is letter B, imagist. Ezra Pound is generally considered the poet most responsible for defining and promoting a modernist aesthetic in poetry. His own significant contributions to poetry begin with his promulgation of imagism, a movement in poetry which derived its technique from classical Chinese and Japanese poetry, stressing clarity, precision, and economy of language, and foregoing traditional rhyme and meter in order to, in Pound's words, compose in the sequence of the musical phrase, not in the sequence of the metronome. This Ezra Pound, imagism. So contributions to modernist poetry, more than any other writer, he was responsible for dramatic changes occurring with poetry, urged writers to make it new, influenced other writers to discard traditional forms, techniques, and ideas. and experimented with new approaches, and his movement was called Imagism. That's Ezra Pound. 46, 40, we still have, yeah, that's Imagism, poetry written that evokes pictures or images for the reader. Direct presentation of images or word pictures. That's Imagism. 46. The raw material of thinking is A. Symbols, B. Semantics, C. Man, D. Child. The correct answer is symbols. A symbol is an object or an act that stands for something else. Letters and words are symbols. Mental images are symbols. Symbols help us think about things that are not present. And basically, we all know that language is symbolic, right? Symbols are very important as far as language is concerned because without symbols, it will be very difficult for us to communicate our ideas. Next, question number 47. With who of the following is not a romantic poet? A. John Milton, B. John Keats, C. Robert Burns, D. William Blake. Correct answer is John Milton. John Keats, Robert Burns, and William Blake were all romantic poets. They belonged to the romantic period of English literature. John Milton was a Puritan poet. The Romantic Age, 1798 to 1830. What are the three main characteristics of Romantic poetry? Instead of placing emphasis on reason, Romantic poets embraced imagination and naturalness. Romantic poets wrote poetry that spoke of personal experiences and emotions, often in simple, unadorned language. And Romantics viewed nature as transformative. They were fascinated by the ways nature and the human mind mirrored each other's creative properties. So, in Romantic poetry, reason is not an important idea. Reason is not an important concept. It's imagination, it's naturalness, it's emotion. The words romantic or romance originally referred to medieval tales of knights written in the original Roman language, which is Latin. And when we say romantic, it means freely imaginative fiction. And we're not talking about romantic as in romantic love. So the famous romantic poets were John Keats, Robert Burns, and William Blake. Again, John Milton was not a romantic poet, he was a Puritan poet. Puritan age or the age of Milton. That's the literature of the 17th century. Number 48, the quest for blank is the bedrock of organized religion. A, the quest for safety. B, the quest for belief. C, the quest for immortality. D, the quest for organization. And E, understanding. So the correct answer is immortality. Most of the organized religion, such as Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism, and most of these organized religion seek for immortality. Right? Immortality is life after death. It is eternal life. Is the indefinite continuation of a person's existence even after death. And immortality makes us hopeful, right? Most religions adhere to the belief in immortality on the basis of faith. Why basis of faith? Because we don't have proof exactly that there is life beyond death, except that we believe there is. It is our faith, right? That we use. Well, to have faith is to see the invisible, to believe the impossible, and to accept the incredible. Number 49, people refer to him as the Indian Shakespeare. A. Mahatma Gandhi. B. R.K. Narayan. C. Kushwant Singh. D. Kalidasa. The correct answer is Kalidasa, the Shakespeare of India. But Indians say, why is it that Kalidasa is called the Shakespeare of India? When in fact, Kalidasa lived way before Shakespeare lived. Shakespeare lived only during the 16th century, and Kalidasa was lived way before the 16th century. So, but anyway, since the British people occupied India, then let's just accept that Kalidasa is considered as the Indian Shakespeare. Kalidasa, the greatest of Indian poets, his most famous play was Shakuntala. And he lived during the reign of Chandragupta II. And number 15, Manuel was on the baseball team that was playing the first place team. It was the first game that his grandparents and Uncle Thomas attended. Manuel swung his bat while looking for his family in the large crowd. Just as he spotted his grandmother, his greatest fear came true. He lost his grip on the bat and it started to fall. Even though he caught it quickly, Manuel's face became red. He felt as if he had made a horrible mistake and everyone was staring at him. The passage suggests that Manuel almost dropped his bat, partly because he A was thinking about the baseball game, B he was not strong enough, C he was looking for his family, D he was frightened by a loud noise. The correct answer is letter C, he was looking for his family. It says here, it was the first game that his grandparents and Uncle Thomas attended. Manuel swung his bat while looking for his family in the large crowd. Just as he spotted his grandmother, his greatest fear came true. He lost his grip on the bat and it started to fall. So the correct answer is letter C, was looking for his family. So this is it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And see you next week for another set, for set 5, composed of 50 questions. Good day, everyone.